We're going to have a speech now by Tomoko Shiine. She was born and grew up in Minami-soma city, which is actually 25 kilometers from the Fukushima Dai-Ichi nuclear power plant. She herself has a BA in International Studies from Bunkyo University in Kanagawa. She came to Australia in 1995, where she had did an MA in Environmental Studies at Macquarie University. Currently she's teaching Japanese at a local high school in Wollongong area. She lives in the Illawarra area with her Australian husband and 2 young children. Both of her brothers, one of her brothers, and her parents live to this day in Minami-soma city. She went to Japan to visit her family, but unfortunately she wasn't allowed into the area where they used to live. That's part of the exclusion zone, apparently.
続きましてはシーネ智子さんより、スピーチをしていただきます。シーネさんは福島第一原子力発電所から25キロ圏内にある福島県の南相馬市で生まれ育ちました。神奈川県の文教大学出身で国際研究の学士号を所得。1995年に来合、その後マッコーリー大学院で環境学を学びました。現在ウーロンゴンの地元の高校で日本語を教えていらっしゃいます。オーストラリア人の夫と2人の幼い子供を持つ母でもあり、現在イラワナにお住まいです。去年の10月日本に帰省されましたが、被災した地元福島には滞在することができず、他の場所で家族と会ってこられたそうです。それではシーネ智子さんお迎えいたします。
今日はこんなにたくさんの皆様に来ていただきありがとうございます。申し訳ないですが、スピーチを全部英語で用意してきましたので、最後までどうか聞いてください。One year has passed since the 11th March 2011. Still, more than 1,000 people are missing in Iwate Prefecture, northern part of the main island in Japan, where tsunami reached more than 30 meters. More than 20% of residents in Ishinomaki, Miyagi Prefecture, located in between Iwate and Fukushima, cannot sleep well because they still fear gigantic tsunami. Only 40% of children in Minami-soma city in Fukushima Prefecture, where I'm coming from, came back to their homeland. Tiny amount of plutonium was detected in the city last July, 25 kilometers away from Fukushima Dai-Ichi nuclear power plant, but since then, nothing has been done and no one talked about it anymore. November last year, my parents went back to Minami-soma city, Fukushima Prefecture. They went back to their hometown not because the Japanese government announced that cooling system in the nuclear power plant is now settled, so it is safe for residents to return, and they believed and trusted the government. No, but because they wanted to go home, their own home. Still, more than 2/3 of population of Minami-soma city hasn't returned. We don't see children very much anymore in our town. My mother said on the phone the other day. My uncle, who used to live within 20 kilometers of the Fukushima Dai-Ichi nuclear power plant, now exclusion zone, and used to run a daily farm, said to my mother clearly, "We are not going back yet. How can we? The government hasn't decontaminated the place yet." They are now living in Iwaki city, on the other side of the Fukushima nuclear power plant where they used to live. Their son, my cousin, now 50 years old, has been busy obtaining various licenses to drive big trucks and heavy machineries, as he is desperate to find various source of income. My aunt wrote to me saying she really misses their home and wanted to go home as soon as possible. But they knew that even if they go back to their home, they won't be able to continue what they have been doing, daily farming and very humble home vegetable growing, as well as having whole family members around on various occasions. I used to help harvest watermelons, cucumbers, green beans, and potatoes from their place during my childhood, and occasionally help feed baby cows, and it was such a big treat for me. And it was part of my life, as well as theirs, and now it's gone forever. Still, Japanese government is trying to lift the evacuation status for the area after April this year, as if something has been done. From April this year, the Japanese government will raise the limits for radioactive substances in fish as well as other foods from 500 becquerel to 100 becquerel per kilograms. A local fisherman said really clearly in the newspaper. So, we won't be able to sell more than 80% of harvest, presumably, as only 20% of the harvest is over the proposed new limit. It is astonishing to me that a local fisherman said this, but not the authorities. The local fishermen can't give up their lives on the sea, so they could not turn a blind eye on the radioactive substances in the fish they harvest. They want to know exact amount of the radioactive substances in fish, instead of agreeing the government who says the fish may contain tiny amount of radioactive substances so they are safe to consume, or no immediate threat to health at the moment. Contrary to many sentimental reports by the Japanese media, many residents of Fukushima have been and will be realistic as well as resistant. I mean, not to the radiation that becomes now more of a threat to human life anywhere in the world, including Chernobyl. Resistant, I mean, to all government to forgetting what happened and what is still happening in Fukushima, and to avoid being largely responsible for promoting nuclear power at the expense of the life of local people of Fukushima. Inside of me and my family and friends in Fukushima, the nuclear plant accident is still going, nowhere near settled nor under control. Every time I hear about the earthquake in Japan, that seems much more frequent than usual after 11th March last year, my heart burst into pieces. In early morning of 9th of March, only 2 days ago, there was a big aftershock coming from Ibaraki prefecture, right next to Fukushima, seismic size of 5.5. The earthquake that caused the severe accident in Fukushima last year was seismic size of 6. How could I forget that people around my hometown had to wait 5 weeks or several months after the gigantic tsunami to obtain outside help to search the missing relatives or friends or neighbors. No rescue team was dispatched to them in fear of radiation contamination. During that period, local firefighters had been doing what they could do to find the remains of the loved ones without any machines. The Japanese government could have done more and learn much quicker what needs to be done, including safely evacuating children and their families in order to avoid further radiation. Yet, they seem to be going further backwards. Furthermore, the governor of Fukushima Prefecture wants to bring back the residents of Fukushima, so he has been calling other local government to stop offering support to evacuees from Fukushima since November last year. Now that several key people in the government had admitted that they had a worst-case scenario of Fukushima Dai-Ichi nuclear power plant soon after tsunami hit the plant last year, east half of Japan would be seriously damaged by Fukushima plant, including Tokyo. yet. No immediate and useful information and evacuation warning had made to the locals who lived outside of immediate location of the Fukushima Dai-Ichi nuclear power plant. I mean, outside of 10 km, including where my parents live. Several people have died of starvation in those areas because various supplies from outside, including food and petrol, had stopped after the series of explosions at the Fukushima Dai-Ichi nuclear power plant. What NHK, Japan National Broadcasting Corporation, failed to report is more than 300 people has been saved locally during that period in Minami-soma city, 25 kilometers away from Fukushima Dai-Ichi nuclear power plant, by the dedicated local volunteers who decided to stay even though they were also affected by tsunamis. I am feeling more alone than ever as 11th March 2012 approaches. We don't talk about the disaster anymore with my friends, including from my own country where that happened. I am afraid that still many people in Japan and the world sentimentally believe that we still need nuclear power stations, however dangerous, and even though on April this year, none of 54 nuclear power plants in Japan will be working due to regular maintenance that happens every 13 months. The other day, the Vice Governor of Tokyo, after much protest and discussion with Tokyo Electric Power Company, agreed to raise the electricity bills for the household because now that only a few nuclear power plants running and conventional fossil fuel generated power stations become costly, so we need more money to keep our electricity supply going. Here in Australia, where the uranium mining and contamination of the land and uranium exports are now accelerating despite the Fukushima disaster. I am sometimes completely at a loss. When will we learn and how many accidents do we need? Perhaps we won't get the dangers at all. Let us not forget that we humans cannot live nor maintain even a humble life without clean air, water, and soil. Let us not shut our eyes, close our ears, nor ignore decent and reasonable concerns of how we go about our lives. Do we really need to boil tons of water by nuclear power in order to get the electricity and waste 2/3 of the heat generated to the sea so that the sea temperature is increased up to 7 degrees, seriously affecting local fish industry without even any accident? Let us unite, not segregate, because the real impact of the Fukushima disaster has just begun to appear. Thank you.